Welcome to the Preaching Lab podcast. As always, I'm joined with the Right Honorable Jason Goodwin over in Louisiana, my home state. How are things?
They're going well, man. Heating up, little humid, little
Yeah.
nasty, but you know, that's okay. That's to be expected. What about an hour north of here? What's the situation there?
Hot and humid.
Again,
Same.
that's it.
I
That's it.
just,
Are you
a lot of people get seasonal depression in you know, deep winter, January, February. I get seasonal depression this time of year. Like when I can't I hate the heat. I'm a baby when it comes to heat. So,
so you're not doing
not a
anything? You're
fan.
not like doing any kind of like walking or rucking or anything like that?
Oh, I got air conditioning in my gym now. I can just
Wow.
hang out in that AC, man. Love it.
Are you afraid that's making you
Love it.
soft though? I mean,
I don't care. I'm old enough. I don't mind being a little, taking a little easy. I sweated in that gym for 8 years, so
how close to
I'm
50
good
are
with it.
you, Adam? How close to 50 are you?
Oh, I'm like breathing down 50's neck. I'm less than a year from 50,
You're less than
49.
you're less than 12
Yeah.
months. How
But don't I look good? Don't I look good for almost 50?
wow, Adam, man. So a funny thing, I got to preach at the first church that called me to pastor 25 years ago this year for their homecoming service. And they brought out the picture of me when I 25 years ago when I first went there. And
You looked
that
a little
kid,
different. Yeah, you sent a picture, holding that picture, and
man,
it was a
that
little
kid
different.
he didn't have a clue what he was getting into. He didn't know anything.
Yeah,
He looked like a
yeah.
baby, and oof, that
Beautiful
poor
head of
guy.
hair.
He did have a
Beautiful head of
nice head of
hair.
hair, so much so that even, he let one of the members of the church who was, in beauty school give him some, frosted tips. So, I mean,
Yeah, that
it
was my
was nice.
favorite part. Yeah. Hey, Jason. So what I want to talk about today, I kind of picked out this subject, is thinking about discernment. Discernment versus cynicism. Um, Kind of what is, we gotta fall over two ditches, right? As always, like no discernment, like everything is accepted, false teaching goes unchallenged. We never call anybody out. And then there's like what I would call militant discernment. Every disagreement becomes this huge battle, every error becomes heresy. Uh, just suspicion becomes a way of life. You're just trying to flip up rocks looking for error in everybody's life. And so we seem, see if you agree with me, we seem very polarized right now, like uh, politically, but I think also in Christendom, is uh, what do you agree with that? It seems to be harder to hold coalitions together without them splintering. We seen a
Well,
lot
you've
of
already
splintering coalitions.
you yeah, you've already, offended a segment of the population, I'm sure, by even using the phrase Christendom. So, I mean,
Oh
it
yeah.
is it's one of those things where, yeah, I mean, there's, back in the day, you had tone police, and now you've got all different kinds of, theology police and intention police and all the rest of it, and it's really kind of hard to decide, um, is there any, as one well-known Christian podcast says, is there any room for nuance? Can we have disagreements and different viewpoints without calling the other side, the worst? And it's I think that's just where we find ourselves, because we're always searching for a new purity test, right? It's how
Hmm.
do we check the purity of my clique, of my club, of my tribe versus the purity of yours. And it's often frustrating, because it like you said, you end up in one ditch or the other, and instead of just trying to be wise.
Do you think like internet culture and social media has played into that?
I'm sure it has. I don't know if I want to blame it for our own sinfulness and our own sinful hearts. Probably, it probably plays more to it because of the access to people and the access to thoughts and the access to things that we think we're entitled to have access to now. And so, yeah, maybe it's another one of those curses of too much information where I can say, hey, I know so and so's thoughts on this and they're bad and mine are better or this person's are better, and so we just go from there. Everything's reactionary, right? Everything's kind of
Yeah,
like sports radio used to be, and kind of still is. Everything's a hot take, and if that person gets followers or attention because of his hot take, it's like, well, I've got an even hotter take, so let
yeah.
me try to outdo that guy. And I think you run into those types of things, and it has a lot to do with just the access and the availability and that we have through social media and the internet, yeah.
So before
But the
we
blogs,
we talk
remember the
about yeah,
blogosphere though? I mean, how
yeah,
much was it really that different back in the early
yeah,
aughts and stuff like that when you had the blogosphere before social media? I mean, it seemed like, it was kinda that way back then, discernment bloggers became so famous.
yeah, yeah. It just seems like there's more now.
Well, yeah.
So what before we really kind of spend our time talking about like where do we fall off on that the extreme of being too militant with our discernment? What does biblical discernment look like? Like good, God honoring discernment. Like what does that look like?
I think first and foremost, it looks like being able to say what truly is a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary issue, and really what's worth me getting worked up about versus what can I allow another brother, another church to believe, to practice, to do, and it doesn't affect me. I don't have to get worked up about it. Like here, I may disagree with them, but I at least understand where they're coming from because biblically, I see that there's some wiggle room here. There's some nuance here, and I'm willing to say, hey, because it's not a primary issue, because it's not a character of God issue, because it's not a clear gospel issue, then I'm willing to kind of show some grace and allow them to make their decisions and to go according to their conscience, and I don't have to react. I don't have to say something because it's not a tier 1 priority
Mhm,
issue.
mhm.
What do you think? What do you think of when you think of biblical discernment? Or am I
I
just am
think
I
one
just
thing
categorizing it?
I think I think intent is a big part of it. It's like why? Like why do you care so much or why are you trying to discern this issue? Is it truly is your motivation love to help this person or to serve the kingdom well, or is it motives of I want to be smarter or I want to or want to be thought of as smarter? I want to like destroy this person. Like what's the intent of the heart? I think sometimes that can be a good indicator of good discernment versus bad.
No, I like
Yeah,
that. I also wish that more people would stick to the principle of, like, if it's not my local church or if it's not one of my elders, then I should probably just back away. Like, I don't have to respond to everything and everyone. Like,
yeah,
I wish people would, yeah, and maybe because it's just because we have so much attention to everything, like, it shouldn't matter to you the level that it does that somebody's church or some pastor, some elder is doing this, that, or the other. And yet I think we think because it's public, then it deserves a reaction. And I don't know that
hmm
biblically it necessarily does.
hmm yeah. I was listening to I think it was Sinclair Ferguson's sermon at the last T4G. I thought it was really, he said something to the effect of, as we see people, the keyboard warriors, the keyboard warrior pastors is, when we see them being so militant and defending, are there widows in their church not being taken care of? Are there evangelism that's not happening? And I thought that was a pretty good way to think of it. While you're out, are you taking care of things locally? Are you trying to police the world, kind of thing? And I think that's helpful. Um,
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I think that's kind of and it goes back to just like if, before we get into this at large too, it kind of helps to kind of say, hey, what are our priorities in all of these matters? And w- just like you have a priority to your church and to your family before you go off doing other things, like are we prioritizing correctly, or are we getting distracted by a lot of stuff that just really doesn't matter?
mhm, yeah. So one of the reasons I was excited to talk to you about this, and this comes from like something I heard from you doing pastorally at your church, is when the Kirk Cameron thing came out, where uh, he said that hell is the destruction of the wicked, and it's not eternal. I
Hmm.
think you had some church members like ask you how to think about that. Is that heretical? And I really liked, from my understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of walked them through what is the difference between unorthodox views and they're, I mean, those can be pretty serious. They can be errors that we think that's really not good for you to hold that. But how does that differ from heretical view? Is there a difference there, and how should we see that difference? So walk me through, be pastorally, pastor us all the way you pastored a couple members through that.
Well, it is. It's we can allow non-conventional views that we would even say are unorthodox, or even, sometimes we use the phrase neo-orthodox or something like that, hetero-orthodox. Like we have all these fancy phrases, right?
Mhm.
And yet they're not heretical. And they're not heretical because they're not clearly denying clear teaching in scripture that is of a primary importance. I disagree with Kirk Cameron. I disagree with his take if he's still maintaining it that hell and on annihilationism, and yet at the same time you've got to deal with the fact that even great men like John Stott held to that position as well, and others,
Yeah,
and so
it's like, yeah, like I was gonna say John Stott. Like
yeah,
I just can't throw away the cross of Christ. It's one of my favorite books ever written.
exactly,
I love that
exactly.
book. And so if I'm gonna throw away Kirk Cameron, I have to throw away, to be consistent, I have to throw away John Stott. But go ahead.
That's right. And so what do we do? Well, we say, "Hey, listen, we reject that idea." And yet at the same time, if Mr. Cameron or anybody that held that view, would we still allow them to be members of our church? We would we? I mean, again, I'm not asking for you don't have to give an answer, but I do have to ask the question: would you still allow them to be a member of your church? Now, would you allow them to be in a teaching capacity? Maybe, maybe not. But I think when someone holds a view that is heretical, okay, that pastorally speaking, and for a local church, that has to be an issue that you're immediately like, look, you can't be a member in good standing of this congregation and hold to that view. Like we couldn't welcome you into our church knowing that you hold this view convictionally or anything else. If you agree to this or you have this view, then we're going to withhold membership. And if that's the case, then that's probably a view that's heretical. If you say, no, we can allow you to be a member, we're just not going to allow you to teach, or we're going to want to do some more discipleship and have questions, then that's probably a view that's either heterodox or unorthodox, or has some sort of view that it's like, hey, it's within Christianity at large. It may not be common, but we know that it's at least in debate in Christianity, and so we can't hold membership from you, or we can't hold fellowship with you if you hold to this view. I think those are really
Yeah.
important things to kind of work out, and again, they're connected to views that are second tier, third tier or beyond, because we understand they're not affecting one's view of God, the Trinity, of salvation, the death and resurrection of Christ, any of those things that we would say, no, that's okay. That we can't allow you to do that. Besides the fact that if we look at Mr. Cameron's particular view, he's still saying that there's punishment for the wicked. He just thinks that
Hmm.
that punishment has an end date. He just thinks that that
Right.
punishment has a finality that
Right.
is consummated in their total annihilation and not their continual punishment. So we would even say, like, look, he still has a view that there is judgment and wrath upon the wicked.
Yeah.
We just disagree that he sees an end date to that,
Yeah.
and we
Right.
don't.
It's different from universalism. Universalism would be a whole different ballgame
Correct.
of how to
Exactly,
treat
and that's
that.
a great
Yeah.
comparison. That's a great comparison to think of. He's not saying that no one goes to hell. He's saying no, people go to hell. They just don't experience it for all of eternity, because
Yeah.
after that, they have some sort of total destruction. So there you go.
Mhm. So how do we deal with teachers? Men, we can talk about celebrity culture and another time and whether or not that's healthy. But dealing with very public, very beneficial men that we follow and listen to, like what do we deal with when we find imperfections or a stance that they take where we really, really don't like it? How do we just deal with do we throw like how do we decide what to cast them aside for and what to say, well, I don't really agree with them on that, but I can go ahead and listen to all the other stuff that they teach. Like how do we do that?
Well, I think some of that, man, that has some far-reaching implications because are there guys that have fallen, horrendously and have really kind of upset us? Yes. Does that mean that everything they ever published or wrote or anything else was is now suddenly total garbage? And it's like, no, it's not. I'm sorry, but I can't take that view because I mean, if that was the case, there's hymns in our church that we could no longer sing, like "It Is Well,"
Mhm.
because of positions that the writer of that hymn takes later on in life, and is there a question of apostatism there or those types of things? It is often a struggle when we see people. Um, Take positions, whether it's later in life or have failures where then we want to go back and we want to question everything they've ever said, and we want to kind of comb through things and think, well, was there any kind of hint that they were going this way or that way? And to me, it's like, hey, look, this is why we value the scripture above everything else,
Mhm.
because we should understand that fallen human beings are fallen human beings, and they're either going to say something wrong, they're going to do something wrong, or uh, not aligned with us in every single aspect. And we have to be willing to say, no, what I like about them and what I appreciate about them, I can still appreciate. I can
Yeah.
still say there's value in this, and I'm going to value this where it has value, but I don't have to value the other stuff. I'm not
Yeah.
obligated to value the rest of it. I'm not obligated to value everything Derek Webb has done since 40 acres or whatever
Mm.
else, right? I know, because I know this is your boy and you love him
I
and you did
can't
at one
I
point,
can't
and you can't
I
and you
can't
can't
listen to
now.
him.
You can't
I
listen to
can't
it.
listen to it.
I can
Yeah.
still listen to 40 Acres. I can
Yeah.
still listen to his solo work early on, because
Mm.
that's like, it still has value to me. And
Yeah.
yet and yet
I
for
just can't
you,
do
it's
it.
like, I can't do
I
it.
was too close. Oh, I
You're
was too
too
close.
close. That's it.
But it's funny though to me because sometimes I feel like we give historical giants a pass where we don't give like people in our lifetime a pass. Like, I mean, Luther's anti-Semitism is very problematic to me. I don't care for it. Lewis, I mean, C.S. Lewis, as much as I love him, there were some questionable things
Mm.
there. And so, we kind of give a pass to some of these giants, but we when it gets closer to our lives, we tend to have no grace whatsoever. Let's talk about, let's kind of get in the nitty gritty of how the church has handled some of this recently. In the last few years, like you look at Alistair Begg's position when it came out, he had told a grandma, hey, if uh, he, she asked him about should I attend this wedding, this gay wedding, and he said, "Is your position totally clear to your grandson that you do not believe this is a marriage?" And then uh, he said, "Then maybe go and surprise him." And I think that view is reprehensible. Like, I think that's a horrible position, especially in our time where the lines are all blurred. But I still can't throw away Bag. I think I really feel like the church handled that. Maybe we handled that better than we've handled a lot of positions. I think about Jared Wilson. Like he went on Twitter and just annihilated that position, just destroyed Beg's position. And then at the end of it, he's like, "But I love Beg. I'm not going to cast aside Beg. He's just too profitable in every other area." And so I think, what do you think about it? Because like to me, like I just haven't been able to cast Beg aside, even though that position I just think is really not a good position to hold.
Yeah, and again, um, Begg and has always been a guy who you can tell in his ministry if you listen to him and his preaching and teaching, he's gospel first, right? And he's gonna be a guy that's like, I don't want you to burn any bridge that's going to hurt your ability to communicate the gospel to someone.
Mhm,
That's his tier one, right? Like a personal tier one thing. And so in his mind, if going to this wedding or not going to this wedding could actually keep you from being able to share Christ with your grandson or anything like that, then go to the wedding. Like because that's the priority in his mind, in his thinking.
mhm,
The cultural social impact and thing aside, it's like, no, I think this is the priority. And so others have different priorities. Others have different understandings of what we can and should endorse as Christians. And so we can have, but again, is Begg saying, did he say, you go there fully endorsing everything your grandson is doing? No, he didn't say that.
right.
As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, he said, make clear you're not for this. Your position's clear. Okay, now go. Now,
Mhm,
do I agree ultimately where Begg lands on it? No, I don't. I don't agree. But I'm not, like you said, I'm not willing to throw him under the bus or totally find him to be reprehensible and that he's gone woke or he's gone lefty or he's gone soft because his mentality is what's better? Is it better to still have an opportunity and a way of ministering the gospel to your family member or to your close friend if it means doing something that's uncomfortable for you or even something you disagree with, just so you can maintain those open doors and open opportunities. And so I'm not going to fault him for that. I don't think it's wise, but at least I want to understand where he's coming from. And I think and because we trust Beg on so many other things, I think that's why we're willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I,
mhm,
I I think the question of the people that we're so willing to cancel, I think there comes a lot of things in there. I think there's pride there. I think there's an attitude of superiority. Well, I didn't know I was better than this person, and I think there's also like this idea that okay, now I can seem to have one up on everybody because I called this guy out long before anybody else did, or so on. I think that's often the
mhm,
problem with Beg because of his longevity of service and pastoral ministry and everything else like a lot of these other guys, you're not going to get the upper leg on Beg, haha. But
mhm,
and so we say, okay, we disagree. I don't think he's right here, but I'm not. We're not canceling him. We're not doing
mhm,
that.
mhm. Yeah, and I think we've lost, for some reason we've lost our power to, with some of these guys, to just roll our eyes sometimes and go, okay, like I'm not with you. there. I think, and of course we're naming names on this podcast, I guess, but like Keller, like Tim Keller and Chandler to an extent, Matt Chandler is like, do I feel like they buy too much into the DEI stuff? I do. And they have said things that have made me roll my eyes. But at the same time, I mean, Keller had awards taken away from him because he would not cow down when it came to traditional marriage. And he was also ministering in liberal New York. And so he was going to be a little more winsome than maybe we would all prefer people be as a pastor in the South who doesn't have to be that winsome. And so, like, people like that, I think sometimes when we need to, like, because it just seems like Keller's brought up every other week, like somebody's still trashing his legacy, and I'm just like, man, all the great benefits that I have and I still have from Keller's back and I roll at some him entertaining some DEI stuff. The power of the eye roll is what I call it. I don't
Yeah.
have to cast you aside. I just roll my eyes and say I disagree. What's interesting to me, I've always said about Keller, is Keller when he was trying to be pithy and very like short statements, he got a little too cute. Every time I would read like a large article from Keller on some of these issues, I would walk away like really fully agreeing with him. But he just sometimes when he was trying to be a little too pithy, he got a little cute. And so, there's some guys I probably wouldn't have some guys to talk about DEI in my church that I might would have come talk about the gospel. Is that
Yeah.
a safe
Yeah.
way to
No,
be, you think?
I think that's a great, and I think that's a really good way to phrase it is like, look, okay, I disagree with this brother here, but here's the question: like, what does calling that guy out publicly or in your sermons, like, what are you trying to do there? Like,
Mhm.
what do you think that that's gaining you? Do you have like a massive part of your congregation that are really struggling in that area and that you've got to call it out? Or are you just kind of throwing arrows and slings and arrows at someone because you want to seem to have an upper hand on this well-known person? Like
Mhm.
that's where I wonder, about your motive more than I care about their motive. Again, I
Mhm.
mean, they've kind of proven themselves over years of faithful ministry, and now you're wanting to castigate them because you think it makes you look good. Is that your motivation? It's easy for you to be hardcore on some of these issues, like you mentioned, because of where you minister, the people that you're with. I think it's way more appropriate that we know who our congregation is and know
Mhm.
what the struggles then are in our congregation than worrying about some of this other stuff that really isn't a part of what we're dealing with. Like if
Mhm.
your congregation struggle isn't with a lot of this with either the DEI issues or the woke issues or those other kind of things, like then why bring them up? Like, what's the deal there? What are you really trying to? Are you just trying to get points with your people? Are you trying to say, "Hey, yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, this is you're preaching again." We use the phrase "preaching to the choir." This is what we're doing here, and so I don't know that that's very beneficial. I mean,
Mhm.
what would be better for your group is to actually deal with the issues that your group is struggling with. Where are
Yeah.
you blind and have some holes in your either your theology or just in your practical view of ministry or in your treatment of certain peoples and people groups? Like, are you recognizing these things? Because I think in a lot of these circles that are quick to throw down on Nine Marks or Keller or all of this kind of stuff, to me the issue typically comes from their unwillingness to look at their own hearts and minds and what they're actually struggling with, and okay, let's deal with
Yeah.
that stuff. Let's deal with
Yeah.
this right here. Hey, we're really
Yeah.
prideful in the fact that we're a homeschool church. Like we got to be careful. Like how does that?
Yeah.
How do we project ourselves and our family sizes? How do people that may struggle with fertility or they haven't landed where we land on homeschooling? How do they feel when they walk through the doors of this church? Are they
Mhm.
feeling kind of marginalized or discredited or ignored. Maybe that's
Yeah.
where your attention needs to be, and not on a pastor of church 1,000 miles away who has no effect on what you're trying to do as a
Mhm.
congregation.
And you bring up non-marks. Sometimes these discernment, you know, being heavy on militant discernment, I think it borders on bearing false witness. I think because man, some of these people that get that title, whether it's like I just say if you put non-marks as an organization on court and put them on trial for wokeness, I just don't think they're going to be convicted when all the evidence is seen. Can you maybe find some little thing out on the edges? Maybe or Moeller. I mean, there's just some people that I'm just like, how are you getting to woke from their ministries? Gospel Coalition. I think some of their articles on Taylor Swift and stuff is a little eye rolling. But man, there's still so much good resources that Gospel Coalition puts out.
Well,
They,
here's
I
here's
know,
here's
like
what's
kind of MacArthur and his group, but kind of, you know, put that slam that woke label on Gospel Coalition like fully. I had trouble seeing that.
here's what's funny is, so Sabedian and Weeblay was probably the poster child, right, for nine marks has gone
Mm,
woke. Okay.
mhm.
You go to the Anacostia Baptist Church website, is where Thabiti still pastors today. Do you know what their confession of faith is as a local church?
No.
It's the Second London, also known as the 1689 Baptist Confession of Faith.
Mhm.
Okay? So they are a confessional Reformed Baptist church in their own documentation.
Mhm.
And you're going to tell a church that because you disagree, or because what some things one of their elders said publicly or privately or whatever it is, all of those things, that a church that has that as its confession of faith is a church that's off the rails.
Mm.
Like okay,
Yeah.
but I can roll my eyes and I can disagree and I can say, not my cup of tea. I can move
Yeah.
on.
I roll my eyes a lot at him, but
Yeah,
that's
but
another
but but
discussion.
but
Yeah.
according to their confession, they are
Yeah.
right in
Yeah.
line where we are
Yeah.
theologically. Like again,
Yeah.
and most Mark's churches are New Hampshire Confession of Faith churches. At least this one church is willing to be a fully, Reformed
Mhm.
confessional church, and yet they still get the slack that they get from certain populations in other groups.
Mhm.
And the main group casting dispersions coming from the West Coast is not a confessional church. Like they're
Yeah.
not covenantal and all these other aspects. And so I think it's funny to me how, yes, all of these groups and these different people, I think a lot of it has to do with just trying to get an edge and trying to
Mhm.
show that, okay, even though we don't go this far in these areas, but at least we're better here. And I think that's like a lot of what
Yeah.
this is about. And a
Yeah.
lot of
I
it
think
is is
it's about building your platform by building on top and destroying
yeah,
other
yeah,
people. I'll give you two examples I think from Piper's life in just the last few months. You had a tweet that started going around on what's the immigrants in Minneapolis that were all kinds of corruption. What
yeah. The
country?
Somalis. Yeah, 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 yep,
Somalians.
yep,
Yeah, and they pulled a 2017 quote where Piper was relishing the fact that he was in line to vote and there were Somalians there. And if you know Piper, you know he's all about the nations, and that's just a man. Hey, I'm so thankful that I live in a place where I get to rub shoulders with people from other countries. And
yeah,
then you bring that 10 years later into a political context and try to make it as if Piper's on board with the Somalian. That's false witness. Brothers, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you
I
are
agree.
you
Yeah,
are
of course. Yep.
violating God's law by pulling a something 10 years ago and trying to put it in today's context to try to hurt Piper. And then he made a post about just quoting a verse on immigration, and it turns out that he's constantly going through the McShane Bible reading plan and quoting his, and it was just what McShane Bible plan was for that day. But because of the hot political climate, that's going to make this Piper's making some kind of stand here. I hate that stuff, and I'm someone who, man, I'm of the political right. You know me. I get into all that, but that kind of junk, I hate it. I hate
Well,
it.
again, I think I think we're always we and I say we in the plural just because we're guilty of this too. I know I could be guilty of it too. That we're, whether you call it, you know, we're wolf hunters or we're this, that, or the other, and we're trying to preoccupy our time with, who's getting it right, who's getting it wrong, who can we call out, who can we publicly ridicule, because they put something out that we think meant something, and we're reading intention into it. We're not really giving anyone the best um, uh, grace or whatever. We're constantly just assuming the worst, and I think this is the problem. Okay, this is the problem where when you feel like you're trying to compete with people publicly, that you don't mind bearing false witness because the end justifies the means, right? If I'm
Yeah,
right and this guy really is wrong and this guy really is a wolf in sheep's clothing, then maybe my any of my actions and all of my actions are justifiable, because if the end proves what I think it should prove, then I'm a hero because I've warned the masses of this false teacher, false prophet. And yet, more times than not, that's really not the case. And more times than not, you've not really proven anything other than that you're just probably not a very nice person.
yeah,
And if you are a nice person and it's your social media that's making you look like a very much a nice person, then get off social media, because there's a lot
yeah.
of guys that I've been told, man, they're really not what their Twitter bio, X bio looks like. And I'm like, well, if that's the case, then you probably need to get off. And
Yeah.
and because it's not making you look good. It's not doing you any favors. So how about you stop and just pastor your churches, or just take care of what the Lord's called you to care about, and forget about this other stuff.
Mm, yeah. I mean, personally, I can make a political argument, I feel like, with the best of them. I study it, I look at it, I don't know. I find entertainment. I'm probably a sick person because I find entertainment in politics.
You're
I can
sick for a
make
lot
the
of reasons.
argument.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I can make the argument, but if on my my social media is gonna be about my family and about fun stuff I'm doing and the gospel and edifying. And because otherwise, I'm going to lose a hearing to somebody in my congregation. They're not going to listen to my sermon on Sunday because they think I'm a jerk or I'm going to lose. I don't want to lose a hearing over taking, or being too aggressive online. I care more about my real life than I care about, you know,
Well,
what I
I
do
also
online.
think I also think it's maybe it's growing up in an association of churches that has always been very small, and 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 for lack of a better term, irrelevant, especially in comparison to others, where I don't feel the need to fight for relevancy because that's never been like one of our things. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, if you become the president of our association, what does that really mean for you? And really, all it means is more of a headache because you've got to lead this big business meeting that we do once a year that nobody cares about, right? The amendment.
You don't think Cliff has achieved just this
No, no, no,
another
no,
level
no, no.
of
We'll let
popularity
Cliff
and
we'll let
fame?
Cliff speak. We'll let Cliff speak for
Yeah.
Cliff.
Yeah.
But I think, the New York Times isn't publishing our amendments, right?
Mm,
They're not
right.
recording what we're doing. And even in most of the towns where our churches are, the rural areas where they are, they're greatly overshadowed by the other associations or conventions of churches that exist. And so I guess maybe for like our crew, maybe all of these things have just always been kind of like head scratching, because it's like, who are you trying to impress? Like, what are you
That's a
trying to
good,
like?
yeah.
Who's your audience anyway? Who do you think you are? Other conventions, other churches, yeah, just by their presence alone, they take the air out of the room. Like nobody's listening to me anyway. I mean, like
Yeah.
somebody asked me the other day, how many people listen to our podcast? I told them like, I don't know. I would be shocked if 10 people listen to our podcast. Like I don't even have a clue. Like I don't know. Eh,
I'm always shocked. Like I had a friend come over, grew up in my youth group, and he the other day said, "Man, I've been listening to y'all's podcast," and I was utterly shocked.
Yeah, 100%. Like
Really?
if somebody told me they listen to our podcast, I was like, "What's wrong with you? Like, what are you talking about?" I don't even think about these things, and it's not. And don't. I'm not trying to. I have enough pride issues of my own. Okay, I'm not trying to
Mhm,
have this false sense of humility or project something that's not true. And yet at the same time, I also kind of have an understanding of like I mean, I'm not even a big fish in a small pond. Like I am like nothing. And so I don't know why anybody would want my thoughts. Like when I have people that call me and say, "Hey, I want your thoughts on this." I'm surprised that you would like, "Okay, sure." I don't know why, but yeah, I'll give them to you.
mhm.
I say all that to say, so I it's never been alluring to me to necessarily think that me putting someone on blast or anything like that is actually going to attract anything because I just don't think I don't think people care.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's
yeah,
listening.
yeah, yeah. Well, we're it's time for us to go, but I think just I would just leave you with this: is you know worry about the wolves that they're threatening your own congregation, and
Yeah.
more than anything, just concern yourself with the sheep, and be sure and live locally, and man, every teacher has errors, and they're gonna be thinking, if you just cast a teacher aside because you don't agree with them over one or two issues, you just eventually you don't have anybody to listen to, and probably, hey, just read your word anyway. Like we can get into the celebrity culture of it all, but there are men that I've benefited deeply from reading, and I'm just not going to cast them aside from an issue. So let's just like seek to edify when it's heretical issues. We need to be men. Don't be squishy. Don't be squishy on those issues. Don't worry about being winsome when it's just gross error. But hey, there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing wrong being winsome. There's nothing wrong with nuance at times, even though we sometimes treat it like there is something wrong. Those are good things. And leave us with some parting thoughts of wisdom, Jason.
Um love your family, love your wife, love your children, love your church, and I think all of this other stuff will kind of take care of itself. If
Yeah,
you're being faithful to be a discipler and a disciple maker, I think that's sufficient. So, keep your head down and keep working. Keep your hand to the plow. I think that's where we need to be.
sounds good. All right. Until next time, we'll see y'all. Keep your self healthy. Keep your pulpits healthy. I never do good on that. But anyway, hey, we're glad to be here. We are people that don't take ourselves seriously, as you can tell, but we do take the gospel and preaching seriously. So follow us on the Facebook page. Subscribe to this podcast. We never tell people to do that. Hey, subscribe to the podcast. Um, I'm just saying that because most podcasts say that. So, hey, maybe we can get more than the 10
Subscribe,
listeners that we
like, leave
have.
a comment.
See y'all later.